Hello and welcome to Dear Franny, the podcast where I have uncommon conversations with fascinating people about love, sex, relationships, and more. I'm your host, Francesca Hogi. So today's guest is my dear friend, Corinne Kaplan, and talk about a fascinating person. Corinne is one of a kind, and if you are not familiar with Corinne Kaplan, get ready. She's hilarious, she is outspoken, she has very unusual views on a lot of things having to do with life in general, but also love and dating and relationships, and that's part of what makes these conversations with her so much fun, because she and I definitely approach these things from very different perspectives. Corinne is a TV personality. She appeared on 2 seasons of Survivor, one with me, and she also appeared on the most recent season of The Amazing Race with our friend Eliza. Shout out to Eliza. And she is the host of My Best Friend Corinne, which is a podcast that you can find on iTunes, and you can also every Friday watch My Best Friend Corinne live on TV Party app, which is a free app that you can download. And like I said, Corinne is one of a kind. They really broke the mold when they made this one. Please enjoy my conversation with Corinne Kaplan. Corinne Kaplan.
I love how big you're smiling at me.
Because I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is so exciting. Welcome to Bungalow Hogi.
Chateau de Hogi. Yes. It's perfect. I mean, you've poured me a nice glass of cognac.
I know. This is very, I feel very adult drinking cognac. I mean, I'm more just smelling it, but still, only for you would I be having cognac. So what's going on, girl?
Nothing. I've been working all week in Arizona. Flew here to see your smiling face. I'm excited to talk a little bit about love because we don't share the same opinions.
We do not.
In a lot of ways.
We do not. I actually had an idea. I was like, maybe I should do an advice episode with.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so you give your advice, I give my advice.
It would ultimately never be the same advice.
Though occasionally we actually do agree.
Sometimes I'm right. Is that what you were going to say?
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Just kidding. So the last time I interviewed you was for my previous podcast, Parental, and that interview was all about dating as an adventure and your very unique way of approaching your love life. Has that changed? And for those who may not have heard that episode, how would you describe your approach to dating?
I mean, that's a good way to put it, an adventure. So I'm not sure that I care that much about every date I go on. Like, I don't have the pressure when I go on a date of being like, I really hope this is the one. I feel like if this will make for a good story, I will go on the date. I'll go on dates with guys that I think are terrible. I mean, one of my favorite examples is the guy that messaged me. His first message to me was, "What it do, girl?" G-U-R-L. And I was like, yeah, definitely going out with this guy because this is going to make for a good story. Yeah. And it did. So I think that takes a little bit of pressure off of me as far as dating goes. Mm-hmm. But I'm a people person in many ways, not all ways. But I do think that you can this is going to sound probably bad, but I can sit across from somebody and see their flaws and sort of decide, oh, this is something I sometimes do that I shouldn't do because this guy's doing it and I'm learning.
So you learn, do you change the behavior?
Yeah, I try to, yeah.
What's an example?
It's hard to think on the spot of an example. Every time I go on a date with somebody, I'm like, well, I wouldn't have done that. Very normal example, but it's not something I do anyway. But I always get to a date early because I'm like dropping a goldfish into a tank, right? It's slow. I want to see the area. I want to get the ambiance. I'm always the first person at a date. And I always feel, as the dude, you should have gotten there before me. You should have gotten the table before me. I'm always there first and I always text them, what would you like to drink?
That's very taking control of the situation.
Yeah. It's big dick energy.
It's real big dick energy.
I know. But I learned it from showing up on dates and being the second person there and being kind of sweaty, fumbling for lip gloss. And you know what? I want to be in control in that way. And that's something so easy that you can do. Just get there 10 minutes earlier than the person's going to get there. It's not that hard.
Well, I understand that, but why do you think that he needs to be there early? I mean, if you say you're going to meet at 8 and he comes at 8, he's on time. You think he should be early? That shit.
On time is late. No.
I've spoken to a lot of people about dating. I've never
heard this? Oh my God, it drives me batshit crazy. And God help you. I will give credit. Guys that it's 8 p.m. and they're like, I'm so sorry, I'm in the valet line or whatever it is. They're literally going to be 3 to 5 minutes late and they text anyway. Mm-hmm. That I give you credit for, but you know what? It shouldn't have come to that.
Wow. So when's the last time you went on a date with a guy? And you go on a lot of dates?
I do.
I
went on one Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has a guy beat you to a date? Has he been earlier than you? Has that happened?
I can't think of a time it has.
So it's never happened. Yet this is still the standard.
Well, that's why I'm still single. Maybe my soulmate,
The guy showing up on time, which in your mind is late, does that then mean you're just like instantly?
No, but if you are actually late, that's not going to work for me. I mean, one date sticks out in my mind. It was when I was still living in LA, and the guy was like, let's meet at this time. And there's nothing I hate more than, oh my God, the traffic was so bad. It's fucking LA. First of all, we have apps for that. And second of all, you knew damn well, like, he was coming over Laurel Canyon and he was in the valley and he was in like Studio City.
That's a trek for people who aren't familiar with LA.
But like, that's a trek. And you know it's a one road. Laurel Canyons were really small road. I'm sitting at the time, I mean, I'm early, but even let's say we were meeting at 7. I'm there at 6:45. I hit him with, I'm here. I got us a table. What would you like to drink? I'll have it waiting. He's like, hey, just going over Laurel Canyon. And I was like, so how late are you going to be? And he's like, no, I'll be there. And I was like, no, you won't. I know exactly where you are. And unless you have a flying car, you will not be here in 15 minutes. 7:30, he shows up, 45 minutes late. And at this point,
half an hour late.
Well, in my mind, 45 because I had been there 15 early, but he's half an hour late. He sits down, and it was actually somebody had set us up. And he sits down, and I was like, hey, I'm just letting you know there will be no second date, but because we have mutual friends, I will sit through this one. And he's like, are you kidding? And I was like, no. And I can hear the busboy behind us, like, clinking glasses. Like, it was so awkward. By the way, he wasn't like, I felt like he was dating up, which is another problem I have. Like, he was kind of a little beneath me anyway. I went through the rest of the date, and at the end of the date, he tried to kiss me. I was like, I feel like we went over this earlier. Like, there's no way we can date. Like, you were not on time.
So in that situation, you had mutual friends, so that's why you stayed. But have you ever just said...
I actually thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to do the universe a service, and I'm going to teach him that this is improper behavior. He was so, like, just nonchalant about being that late to the date. I just can't stand that.
Yeah. I understand when people are late and they seem to just have this, like, I think that with technology and texting, it's given a lot of people a pass in their minds where they're just like, oh, I can always just tell them I'm running late and then it doesn't count.
I mean, what am I supposed to knit a sweater while I'm waiting? Like, there was nothing for me to do. I sat there with like my fucking dick in my hand. Like, it was horrible. I felt like an idiot. So the other thing, the biggest takeaway I get when I go on dates, as far as like correcting my own behavior, is things people will disclose to me. Because what happens is, you know me, like, I have no filter. I'm an open book. And so I'm very into, my mother always says Corinne them slowly, but I never do. Like, I'm like,
you just Corinne.
Like, yeah, I'm like really over the top. Well, first of all, 99% of the time I'm trying to entertain myself on a date. I like telling funny stories or, things that you really maybe wouldn't tell somebody. And so recently, a couple weeks ago, I went out with a gentleman who was just disclosing, I mean, I think he just got drunk. And so he unintentionally was like disclosing all of these things to me. As the date began, he's like, so I have a daughter. I know you don't like children. And he's like,
how does he know this about you already?
I say it up front in the chat function of dating apps. It says don't want kids, and then I will oftentimes reinforce like, hey, just letting you know, like, I definitely don't want children. I gave you a million examples of why I do this, because I go out like the Franny approved CEO. I went out with him. I was like, I don't want kids. He's like,
for the people who are listening who have no idea what we're talking about.
Right. Well, it seems like you could draw the conclusion that there are gentlemen I go out with that are age appropriate and successful, and I call them Franny approved. And this one was a CEO. Is that a proper background?
Yeah. I mean, I will say it's not me being Franny approved doesn't just mean age and job.
No.
There's
a good start.
There's a good start. I mean, it's better than like
the 23-year-olds,
22 and unemployed, which is it's just not an appropriate match for you.
Yeah.
So I guess at this point, I love you. You're great.
Well, so let's go back to that guy for a second. So I'm sitting across from the Franny approved CEO. We go on this date. I don't have the discussion ahead of time. We sit down and he was like, he made some comment about that made me think he was talking about kids. And I was like, oh, I just want to be very clear. I don't want to have children. And he's like, oh, I really want kids. And he was like 42 at this point. And I'm like, all right, well, should we go Dutch? Or like, I was like, date's over. Like, date's over. We had like ordered food. It was dinner. And he was like, oh my God, I feel like it's way too early to talk about something like that. Like, let's get to know each other. I'm like, you know what, dude? That's why you're 42 and you don't have any kids. Because you're not having this fucking conversation like you should be. Now, the date ends and he's like, I would really like to see you again. I'm like, okay, just to be clear, I don't know that this is a good match based on like the obvious issue.
Other than that, how did you feel?
Well, that's not the worst part. Okay. So that was fine. I decided to go out with him again because I mean, I'm not going to fall that quickly. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh God, what do we do? I'm in love with him and I don't want to have children. I'm like, whatever, I'll see him one more time. The second date we go on, he goes, I just wanted to tell you I've given a lot of thought to having the children conversation and I just want you to know people change their minds. And I was like, oh my God, don't go out with somebody who says they don't want kids.
I mean,
and hope that they change their mind. But here's the kicker. He goes, not you, me. I don't think I have to have kids. And I'm like, oh my God, you're such a fucking loser. You're such an insecure loser. You totally want to have kids. You're going to not have kids for me? A woman you met last week? So I learn like these things because sometimes when I go on a date with somebody that I'm super fucking into, which isn't very frequent.
That's not Franny approved, by the way.
No, that I'm sure it's not.
Yeah, okay.
But the going out with somebody that, you know, the problem is even though I go out on dates all the time and I'm like a professional dater and I'm pretty much cool as a cucumber in most situations, every now and then there's a guy that walks in the room and I'm like, oh, and then I start to become this person. Like they tell me things that I'm, you know, a good example.
I know.
I'm really religious. And I'm like, me too. What are you, Jehovah? I love Jehovah's. That's my problem, right? And that's something I try and take away. Like when I see, I can identify it so easily in someone else that's doing it to me. And I'm like, okay, Corinne, remember this. When you're in that situation, it's a bad look.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that person.
Yeah, don't be the person who's just saying whatever it takes in the moment to try to get this person to like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even to try and get them to go home with me. Like I will, once in a while you come across someone that you're just trying to bottle them. You want to keep them and put them in your pocket.
Yeah. How does that work for you when you do that?
It doesn't work at all.
Fine.
Also, you know, it's not a good idea to take Adderall before the date.
Oh my God. No.
That's also a no-no.
Yeah, that's a no-no. We can talk about all the things that you do that maybe are not optimal in dating if you want to meet somebody for a relationship, which is ultimately what you are looking for, right?
Yes, I've actually revised that to be that I would like an activity partner. I want somebody that I'm romantically involved with that likes to do the same shit as I do. Mm-hmm. That is literally, I don't have any expectations beyond that. Mm-hmm. Like, do you like hiking? Do you like travel? I mean, well, I hate people that say I like travel. Everyone likes travel. It's like asking if you like holidays.
Yeah.
Everyone likes, do you know what I mean? Like, I want somebody that I just feel like I like to do so much stuff. And oftentimes I'm unable or not motivated to do things because I'm doing it by myself.
Yeah.
And
do you want to live with this person in a perfect world?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's not necessary. Okay. I mean, I could take it.
Do you want to be in love with this person?
I'd like to be, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'll take in like with the person that also wants to do, I've just moved to Colorado, like wants to explore the hot springs, wants to drive to Telluride, like whatever.
Yeah. Do you think you want that in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
I have never been somebody that thinks of life in the long term in that way. Like I can't really envision, which is the same when I'm talking to friends that are dating people and I'm like, you know, I don't think in that way. Like, I think that's super lovely that you think that you're really into this person. Like,
that you delusionally think.
I love this Joe Rogan quote and it's life is about how to get more of the good feelings.
Okay. Well, I want to go back to my original question, but before that, does that mean that you don't believe that lasting love is possible?
Oh, I do. My parents have lasting love.
Okay.
It is.
So why are you cynical, do you think, when your friends or people are like, people that you know are in love?
I think that this comes from a place, I didn't always used to be that way. In my 20s, I wasn't like that. I'm much older and my friends are older. And I see almost all of my friends desperately clinging. They're like, this is the idea of what I'm supposed to have now and I don't have it. So how I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. And it's not organic and I don't buy it. And I feel like when you're young and young love, like I was madly in love with my college boyfriend. Anybody who saw the two of us together would have agreed that, you know? And I had many other friends that were in relationships in college that were like, they were smitten. I have friends that were together since they were in 7th grade. Like, I could tell you like lots of stories of that. But when you get to a certain age and people are trying to find each other and everyone's the land of broken toys, like, I'm not buying it. So you know what? Why don't you lower the bar and just say to yourself, like, it's not that I'm saying one night stand, because that's actually not a driving force for me. Like, I'm a woman and I can have sex if I want to. And that is not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody I can stand for like a period, like a 6-hour car ride and 3-day trip. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really hard to find.
Well, it sounds like though what you were describing with your friends, you're really trying to make it happen. That's what you just said that you do when you meet a guy that you really like.
I am actively trying to not be that way. Okay. And I can tell you that while that is true, usually I will get the guy for a little bit and then I become, and it's never attractive. Desperation is the world's worst cologne. Yeah. Like I am the spider you're trying to flush down the toilet.
Desperation is the world's worst cologne.
It is. And I'm not a desperate person, but when I find somebody, because it's so hard, I wish I was the kind of person, like I have girlfriends that like, they fall in love every other week. They have back-to-back boyfriends. They break up after years with somebody and then 2 weeks later find somebody else and they're with them for years.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know from that. And so when I find somebody that I'm really smitten with, I have a really hard time reeling it in. Yeah. Like I can't pump the brakes because I'm like, this is...
Well, because you have no faith.
Right.
Yeah. So my original question, I want to ask you this, is we know what you're doing that's maybe not working.
Yeah.
That you're not,
Sure.
that is not ideal if you're looking for a relationship in your approach to dating. What do you think that you're doing right?
I think the number one thing I do right is I'm active. Like, so I'm a very like proactive person. So I really do feel like any situation you have in life, whether it be your job, the city you live in, your stress with your family, whatever it is, like you are the only person that has the power to solve that problem.
Okay.
And so I approach dating that way too. So I am extremely direct. Like I will have a small amount of chit chat. Some would say too little before I'm like, do you want to meet? Let's meet. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy I went out with Saturday is because a friend told me about him. I found him on LinkedIn. I messaged him on LinkedIn and like lured him. I mean, I'm really direct. I'm the person, if somebody walks into a bar that's over 6'6", like my ass is going to be
oh my God.
Right over there.
Yes, I know
I
know who you are.
Most women, I think it's not a self-confidence thing. It's more of like an obnoxious, probably like my Jewish mother thing, but like, go get what you want. Go take what's yours.
When I saw Kevin Durant last night, first when I was like, he's a famous basketball player and he's really famous. I recognize him. I think it's Kevin Durant. That was my first thought. And my second thought was if Corinne was here, she would be making a beeline to him right now. Let me ask this question a different way. So that's what you're doing well that gets you a lot of dates. The thing that you're looking for, that person that you can spend 6 hours in the car ride with and all of that, what do you think that you're doing right to get you to that person and that relationship?
I think I assess people better now than I did when I was younger. And I go out of my way to make meaningful connections. So for example, I wouldn't necessarily like just go to drinks with somebody and then just like decide, oh, we should go on a vacation. But like oftentimes my dates involve, let's go to a shooting range, let's go on a hike, like things that are more meaningful where I can actually get to know this person more so than just like everybody's fun after 2 or 3 drinks, the music's loud. Like that's not really a good date to me and it's not a good indicator. So in my youth, I would go meet a guy out, decide he was great, and then I would spend, I don't know, even a night with him watching TV and I'm like, get out of my house! You're so annoying! Because I didn't really know the person at all.
Yeah.
You know, and so one thing that I learned, and this is just like a psychological thing, my brother went through residency and when he did his psych rotation, he mentioned to me, I was telling him that I met a guy, this is years ago in New York. I was like, I really like this guy. I didn't know him yet. I just knew of him and I was like, I'm really interested in like making this happen. And so I said, I wonder what I should suggest for the date. He was from out of town. My brother's like, well, let me give you a tip. He goes, take this as an example. What's your favorite nightclub? And at the time it was this place called Marquee. And I said Marquee. And he goes, great. How many times do you think you've been there? I was like, 500. And he goes, can you remember one night from another night distinctively? And I was like, well, no, they all blend together because and he goes, that's a psychological thing, right? So it's very hard for your memory to stamp multiple things when the location is the same, the couches are the same, the smell is the same, the drinks are the same. He goes, so if you really like somebody and you want to make an impact, keep taking them to another location. He goes, have drinks somewhere, have dinner somewhere else, have dessert somewhere else, have a glass of port wine somewhere else. He goes,
new timestamps.
Multiple stamps. Right. Stamp that passport. Stamp.
Okay.
And I do think that's a really smart move, but it also gives you a bunch of different contexts with which to like position this person in your head mentally and emotionally.
No, I agree with that. And actually, I think I've already mentioned this on a recent podcast. I had this idea for a dating service, when somebody else is welcome to take this because I'm never going to do it. But I thought it should be like in New York City, and the deal is like you guys meet at a subway station and you're handed like an envelope.
It sounds like Amazing Race.
It's basically like the Amazing Race, but like a very short Amazing Race. And you just have to together navigate your way to this place.
I love that.
And have that be the date.
My God,
because I think there's something about like, okay, we have to work together. We have to like figure this out. Oh, okay, what train do we take?
And it's the stress and like who's more bossy. And
so it's like, probably me being a fan of the Amazing Race is probably where this came from.
I was going to say, my first thing that comes to mind is our first day playing Survivor together. You were like, that's how you build a shelter. And I'm like, oh, this girl gonna get herself out of that.
There's literally no way I said that. I don't know. I don't know how to build a shelter.
I know, but you were still very like, guys, I don't think this makes sense. And I was like, oh, she can't help herself.
Yeah.
If there are 2 people on a date and you've got to solve a problem, one person is going to take the initiative.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, how delicately do they do that? Do they take your feelings into consideration? Are they patient with you? There's so much you could learn. I love that idea. Someone should definitely do it. I will be your test
Someone
subject.
Should do it. Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't have to just be New York. It could be other places. But
that was anywhere.
Yeah, it could be anywhere. But yeah, that's my idea. You're good. You're definitely good at being memorable.
Yeah, I think
definitely good at leaving an impression. So I guess, what do you think that men are looking for?
I mean, that's a really general statement.
The guy that you want to meet, who to be your, activity companion, what do you think he's looking for?
Damn it, Franny, you're good. I don't know. I would hope that he's looking for... I always say, like, the person that I end up with, should I end up with somebody, I want them to wake up every day being like, God, I'm the luckiest person alive. And I do feel like that should be sort of the case on the dates too. So I want him to be looking for the person that's going to light up his entire life.
And what does that person look like? Like, what are the qualities
I don't know.
of that
It's
person?
different for everyone, but I know that I don't want to be somebody settling for me. I want the person to be, like, incredibly bowled over by all of my quirks and all of my... They think it's funny that I curse like Andrew Dice Clay. They like that I've never cooked anything in my life. Like, I literally don't want to change anything about myself.
Okay.
I want them to like every single ridiculous nuanced thing about me because they're just so lucky they found me.
Do you think that that's realistic?
Oh, probably not. No, of course not.
So do you think that, I mean, are you prepared to love every ridiculous nuanced thing about them?
I mean, I've been there before. I have had that. I mean, the one person I ever lived with, and he was an outrageous... He did really annoying things and whatnot, but I just was so smitten by him that, like, could have taken a shit on my coffee table and I'd be like, that's adorable. I really just, I had a very high tolerance.
In the short term, that's adorable.
I mean, I was with him for a year.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what I'm getting at, which you probably know, not that I'm trying to coach you. This is not a coaching session. No. This is an interview. But I guess I'm all about, like, being strategic about something, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, I want this thing. I'm not getting this thing. Let me look at how I'm approaching this and just being, like, very strategic, just being very pragmatic, objective, like, okay. So to the extent that you could be objective, what do you think that you would have to do differently?
Lower my standards.
And what do you mean by lower your standards? Define what that means.
I would have to accept a lot of things that I currently don't accept. I mean, the obvious one is height. So your listeners don't know me, but I prefer people who have a pituitary gland problem. Like, I like genuinely, my ideal man is 6'11". I mean, like, I
really
want...
6'11"?
Yeah, I love...
He can't even, like, fit in rooms and
Ideally,
furniture and cars and airplanes.
I love it.
And, like...
I think you were born special. You were born excellent. And
so would you date, like, an Andre the Giant? If Andre the Giant...
No, he's hideous, though.
Okay, so...
No, I don't want that, but I really like very tall men in general. So, like, all of my exes have been above 6'5". And because I'm, like, so used to that in a romantic setting, I find it very difficult to accept even just a few inches shorter than that. And so...
Is 6'2" acceptable these days, or that's not acceptable?
I mean, my base was always 6'4" on the dating apps. But
how do you even find this many guys that are 6'4" to go out with? You go on so many dates.
So when you say about, like, problem solving and, like, why are you asking for something that you don't think you're going to find? I feel like I understand that it's going to be very challenging to get this particular concoction of unicorn that I want, but I waited this long and I'm very patient as a person in this capacity.
Yeah.
I think, like, if you build it, he will come. Like, eventually I'll get one. It just takes one. Big wide world out there. I'm asking for one. You don't even have to be that smart. Like, just one really tall, handsome, just worships me.
He just worships you.
Yeah. I don't even need him to be financially stable. I don't care if he comes from a good family. I don't care what he dresses like. I can redress him.
You don't even care if he's employed.
No, I don't.
So you're willing to financially support him. So you're looking for, like, a sugar baby?
No. Ew. No. I'm actually silly.
A gigolo?
Jesus. So my ideal thing is my life plan. So I would like to point out to anyone listening, your whole life goal shouldn't just be to find that person, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
You should have lots of facets to your life, things that you're trying to check off. And in doing so, you should feel complete in other ways. And so one of the big things I want to do is I want to, at the age of 45, no matter what my life looks like at that point, I want to move to a third world country, most likely Belize or somewhere in Central or South America. And I want to open up a beach dive bar. I'm I love sales, I love people, and I love the idea of everyone that's coming to see you is happy because most of them are tourists. And I have this whole vision, but I can't do it. Like, I want to meet a guy that wants to do that with me.
Okay.
It's very difficult as a single woman.
You might have to wait until you're there.
No, you can't. I mean, they're all short. And they're like Incan.
Another expat like yourself, perhaps.
But ideally, like, what happens is if you go to one of these countries and you're somebody that owns a bar and you're a woman, like, you're going to get robbed. It's not going to be pretty. Like, it's even in the safer countries like Belize, you're still a sitting duck. So ideally, I really want to meet somebody that will go do that with me. That adventure, even if that adventure only lasts for 2 years, whatever it is, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, listen, you're right. It does only take one. I mean, for me, the way that that my belief about love and the way that it works is that all of our heart-centered desires for like connection, intimacy, like authentically expressing yourself and having somebody see you and appreciate.
Ooh, that's a good authentically expressing yourself.
I believe that all of those things are possible. So for me, the way that I approach looking for love is you start from the qualities, the heart-centered qualities, and then you work your way up, and then you see like, okay, can we make a connection? All these things. You start from the top.
I know. Yeah.
You start from like...
I ate the cupcake from the frosting
You're like, you gotta
down.
be 6'5", and then I'm gonna hope maybe that all these other things come into play. And so...
Which seems like it'd be easier than you.
No, it's not easier. It would be like, okay, say we were like hunting for a house. We're looking for a house, right? And I'm like, the house has to be 5,000 square feet exactly. It needs to have 5 bedrooms, exactly. It needs to have 5.5 bath, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be this color. It needs to be this style. It needs to be this neighborhood. It needs to have this much yardage. Like, everything down to, and like, find me that house, right?
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, now you're hunting for a unicorn. But if I say, I want a house that's spacious, that I have enough bedrooms for me, for my partner, for people to come visit. I want outdoor space. I want it to be in this neighborhood. I want then it's like, okay, we can work with that because you're starting with like the core needs.
I hear you. It's a good analogy.
And so if you are hunting for a house and you tell me you have these specifications and you're not going to waver, I'd be like, good luck. You may never find that house.
Yeah, but see, you could build that house. So all I need is the structure. I need the 5,000 square feet. All the rest, I'll build another bathroom. I need more bedrooms. I'll build another bedroom. I can build a man. I need the core. The 5,000 square feet is all I need. I can do the rest. I can train them.
But how is that going, Corinne? I want you to have partnership because you want it.
Yeah.
And so I want you to consider the possibility that maybe I should work from the ground up. And
okay, but let me ask you, on a dating app, how the fuck are you going to figure out somebody's got those qualities?
The way they express themselves. There's other things to, like you said, you will go out with a guy. He can be illiterate. He can be unemployed. He can be,
I mean, I'm not looking for an unemployed person, but sure.
None of those things are deal breakers for you.
No.
As long as
he has
tall.
a cat, it's a deal breaker. If he wears too much jewelry, it's a deal breaker. Like, I have deal breakers, but those are not them.
Those are not them, right? But they're all superficial things, right?
Yeah.
If you were to reverse that and say, okay, my starting point is a guy who expresses himself in a certain way, a guy who expresses a desire for that partnership. If that's your starting point, then it's like, okay, let's start here. Like I said, it's not a coaching session, but I guess I would want you to consider the possibility that like, okay, maybe I could shift this approach I have a little bit, start a little deeper. And if you do that, because that's going to require growth. And when we grow, we are attracted to different things. We prioritize different things.
How would I go about, I'm on a dating app and I'm swiping.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want you to only, rely on dating apps.
Sure. I don't.
I know you don't. I know you do.
God, no one's out there more than me.
Yeah. What do they say? How do they express themselves? What do they care about? Do they actually care about the same things that you care about? Because you go out with a lot of guys who don't give a shit about any of that you do and that you care about.
I guess, but because I'm not for example, I dated a wealthy doctor out in Santa Barbara that was probably a great catch, but he composted. And I was like, oh, I went into, he had a daughter at the time. And
what's wrong with composting?
Ugh, just gross. And I don't care about that stuff. And he had a daughter. She was with her mom at the time, but he had a daughter. And I went he's like, oh, you could use her bathroom. I go into her bathroom and the bathtub is full. I was like, oh, the bathtub is full. You forgot to drain or something. He's like, no, I actually saved that water to water the plants. I'm fucking out of here. God. So when you say they don't care about the same, this poor guy cared about the environment. And I was like, ew.
I wouldn't water my plants with used bath water.
He was had a pitcher. He was scooping the water out and using it in.
He's putting soap in his plants.
I guess so.
His plants must not be very happy.
Listen, he's probably using some fucking bullshit organic soap. But the point is you're asking me to find guys that have the same values, but my values are kind of low ranking, as far as he was a great guy. I probably would have been really well adjusted, had I ended up moving.
He had a kid. That's a deal breaker.
Yeah, but his custody of her wasn't it was 20%.
Okay, so you could avoid the kid.
Yeah. Could disappear during.
It's gonna grow up eventually.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But so yeah, I think it's difficult when you're dealing with an insane lunatic like myself.
So you have a podcast, obviously, My Best Friend Corinne.
And you too can be friends with me because I'm such a gem.
Which of course. So you call yourself the patron saint of single women.
I do.
So
actually, someone else called me that, and I liked it. Yeah.
So
years ago.
So what does that mean to you?
I have no idea how to talk about this without sounding super cheesy, but it's an empowerment. I hope that people see my life, me living my life, and I talk about my life so openly in such a public way that they feel like, oh, I'm a victim of this too. Like, it's very easy to go on social media and see all of these couples romantically vacationing. Oh my God, look what the flowers I just got. Look at this, look at that. And feel like you're lesser than because you don't have that. Yeah. And I think that I like to be a beacon for people to watch my life and think like, oh, like she's doing it. Yeah. I could do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's amazing. And actually, the last interview that we did, even though there's so many people who are like, oh my God, is she for real? Like, this can't be real.
I am very real.
And I'm like, no, she's 100% for real. But I also had a lot of single women who were like, I really appreciated that. Like, they took inspiration from like, first of all, being proud of being single and not feeling like you have something to be ashamed of. And also they took inspiration from the idea of like approaching dating with more levity and more fun and adventure, you know, and not that I think anybody was like, I'm going to like 100% only date guys who are over 6'5".
No.
And like there was inspiration that they were able to take from you and your story. So
yeah, I mean, cool. Not everyone has the fairy tale, and that doesn't mean your life can't still be a fairy tale.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a different kind of fairy tale.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, fairy tales also are not true. So there's that too.
No, they're not.
So I think the fact that we grow up thinking that love is a fairy tale and that you're going to meet one person and it's going to make your life magically amazing.
It's going to fix all your problems.
That gets like so many people into so much trouble. And, you know, the dating crisis that we are in is because everybody's grown up with this like bullshit fantasy of what love looks like.
The saddest part is that I am not somebody who like watched The Little Mermaid and was like, I would totally give up my voice for a man. Like I wasn't, but I had two parents that were madly in love, that treated each other with respect. And I mean, they're so clearly madly in love with each other to this day that was the problem. I grew up with that fairy tale, and that fairy tale was very real. And so I was like, I'm not willing to accept anything less than this, which is what gave me this absurd standard to begin with. And then you top that with the superficial aspects of my standard. Yeah. But I am a genuinely, I think, very happy person. And I don't think
you have a great life.
I really think that life is about how to get more of the good feelings. And there are ways to do that, and you can improve your own like day-to-day self-happiness in many other ways. And if you put all the weight on something like finding a good date, I mean, you and I have a mutual friend who's now back in the dating field, and like she puts all her eggs in the basket, like, oh, I hope this date goes well. Okay, well, or why don't you go on the date being like, I don't know, I hope it's a fucking good story. Yeah. That's how I do it.
When I was single, doing a lot of online dating, and I had a lot of bad dates, like everybody does who does a lot of online dating, until I made this decision. I was like, okay, no more bad dates. And so I set this goal for myself that like I was going to go on a date, and my goal for the date was I'm going to do everything I can
to learn
to see if I can make a connection with this person. And that's my only job on this date. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. I still did it. I still did what I set out to do. So I am definitely a fan. If it was clear, like this isn't going anywhere, then I'd be like, well, now I'm just going to have fun with this.
Like, I entertain myself. Oh my God.
I'm just going to ask you like crazy questions because what do I care? Right?
Yeah, that's what I do. For sure.
Yeah. So
I also think one of the biggest problems I hear from girlfriends that go on dates, they're like, oh, it's a waste of time. I wasted my time. No, you didn't. You didn't have to. Like every date I go on, I try and like get something out of. I mean, yes, I have a podcast. So for me, it's never a waste of time because it's something I'm going to talk about. Yeah. But even in a lesser scale, like just every memory stamp you make, you know, your whole mind is a 24-hour recording device, and everything you do colors your perception of the world and changes your attitude in different ways. And you can certainly use making a connection with another human as a positive experience regardless. I mean, I'm talking, unless you get raped on this date, it was a good date. It was not a waste of time.
Yes.
That's how I feel, really.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I love that. And I think that first of all, I love that sentiment. I mean, you know, we could, the rape part, we could leave that out. But like, I love that. It's true. It's not a waste of time. If you show up with that attitude, then it's never a waste of time.
Right. It's 100% your attitude.
Yeah. But then also, I mean, then there's also things of like, I have a client right now who, thank God, she has me, but she also has a therapist. This guy had like, you know, they'd matched on an app, and he started like making these really sexual remarks towards her, and she felt really uncomfortable. And she was like, hey, I want to let you know, like, this is not what I'm here for, or whatever. And he's like, hey, you never never know, right? And so...
Well, don't go out with them.
Exactly. Obviously. But luckily, because this happened, like, you know, I talk to her every week. So this happened like in between, and she didn't reach out to me, which she should have. But she luckily went to her therapist, and she had a therapy session, and she mentioned this to the therapist. She's like, yeah, I'm supposed to go out with this guy tomorrow. And I'm just like, I'm going out with this guy tomorrow, and he's already like making all these, and her therapist was like, I'm not supposed to tell you what to do, but like, don't go out with him, you know? So she didn't go, but she's telling me this, and I'm like, after the fact, and I'm like, why would you ever consider going?
Right.
Like this, there's no way that this is going to end well, right? And so, and I think this is kind of an extreme example, but it's something that I see so often is this person is telling you who they are and what they're looking for.
Well, it's
and why are you continuing to engage?
Because it's a desperation. It's probably like, it's a numbers game, right? And so I would imagine this is somebody that maybe isn't on 4 dating apps like me and is like only matching once, you know, and they're like, I don't know, I matched with this person's interested.
Yeah. I think in her case, she just felt like a lot of women feel, well, first of all, she's not a super experienced dater, but like a lot of women feel like, you know, well, if I cancel, I don't want to be rude and
oh my God.
We made this plan. There's a lot of, I mean, you don't suffer from this, and I don't suffer from this either. The niceness thing of having to
No one's ever accused me of being nice. No, sweetie. No, but oh my God, no.
But anyway, so when
by the way, if she's that type of person, it sounds like she would get on the date and you'd ask her to do things and she'd be like, I don't want to be rude.
Like, that's a waste of time. Yes, that is wasting your time. Going out with somebody when you know ahead of time, like, this is not gonna go well, like, that's a waste of time. But if you like use good judgment and you have the right attitude,
public spaces, you can have a hard out.
I agree with you. Connection for the sake of connection is actually really important.
You will always enrich your life if you are able to connect with more people. What was the alternative? You were going to sit on your couch and watch Netflix? How's that bettering you? It's not. You should, I mean, I see so much value in just getting to know another human being.
Yeah, agreed. Do you think about love as much as you think about dating?
Wow, that's a solid question. Probably not. No. Maybe I should.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. When you think about that partner that you want, you know, that activity partner, companion, it's really about the companionship. It's not about the love.
For me, yeah. I think ideally you want both, but I'd be thrilled to just find the companionship, I think.
Well, you said something to me last night about how you have all of these different friendships that you feel you get the love and intimacy, and talk to me about that.
I mean, like years ago, I remember Oprah saying like you have like a love tank and it has to be filled up. And I think there are many contributors to that. I actually think my parents, who are madly in love with each other and have been together since they were kids, they are each other's 100% love tank. And I think that's a really dangerous game. Like, God forbid one of them gets sick or, you know, they're not both going to die on the same day. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. And so I think it's nice to have a couple revenue streams, if you will. So I don't feel so badly because I get it from a lot of places. But sure, I mean, ideally, I would like to find somebody that I also love and that is more than a companion.
Yeah. What do you think is the secret to your parents' success?
Straight codependency? I don't know. I really don't know. They were made for each other.
Yeah.
They're just really ideal soulmates. And I think that's pretty rare. And also they lived in a different generation where you found each other, like they've been together since they were like 14.
That's so crazy. I can't imagine.
I can't either. But every day, like I use this as the example all the time, but like when I moved from New York to LA, my mom's never worked. My dad is a dentist and they moved me out and they flew out to help me and they were there for the weekend and then they had to fly back Sunday because my father had patients scheduled for Monday. And I was like, Mom, could you stay a couple extra days? Like I need help. Like I still don't feel like let's go to Bed Bath & Beyond or something. And my mom was like, oh, Daddy has patients. And I was like, she goes, we can fly back the following weekend. But like there was no separating the two of them.
Yeah.
Like she can't fathom doing things without him. Like she just doesn't do things without him. She loves being around him and he loves being around her. When I was little, I used to ask my father all the time like why they didn't have more friends. Like on Saturday night, my grandparents would babysit us and they would go out to dinner. And I was like, why don't you have like friends? My dad's like, because I want to spend time with your mother. When I'm not working, I want to talk to your mother. I don't want to share your mother with some other stupid couple. I want to focus on your mom.
I mean, it definitely explains why you think that kind of unyielding, unwavering devotion, desire to be together every moment, that's your ideal. Like if you don't have that, then you're not.
I also think it's why I have this ridiculous idea that that's possible because I've seen it myself.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting because my parents were like that too. They weren't, I don't think they were quite as, my mom would have stayed, you know what I mean, for a few days without my dad. But I think the fact that my parents were so in love and so devoted to each other and were totally each other's best friend. And my dad was like your dad. My dad he didn't really have, even though he was super social, he didn't have that many friends. My dad would not like go hang out with a friend.
Yeah.
Like that's just not a thing. Like if anything, a friend would come over, my dad was like, yeah, like why would I go hang out with other people when I can be with your mother?
Right.
You know?
Like that's...
Yeah. But I think that it's interesting because you and I are both really independent people, obviously, and we can do anything on our own. I think like it's interesting that for you that like created the standard of like, somebody has to be unwavering, accept every single thing about me, love it, did it. I definitely have a base level of like respect and devotion, but it's not like we got to be together all the time because I don't even want that.
Well, yeah, my parents are just like really obsessed with each other. My dad calls my mom in between every patient. And like when I'm on the phone with my mom, she's like, I have to go, it's daddy. I'm like, but I'm calling you long distance and like I'm catching up.
Yeah. What do they talk about?
Nothingness. I don't know. It's so weird.
Oh my God.
He just like wants to hear her voice like as many times a day as he can. Like my mom drives over there and has lunch with him and she picks out his outfit for him every day and they're just obsessed with each other.
I mean, listen, it works for them. So, okay, Corinne, one last question. And if you had a message, if you had a bullhorn and you could send a message to the whole world about love, what would it be?
I don't think that somebody should give me a bullhorn for that. I don't think my messaging is so good. I guess it's probably very close to something you would say, like, love yourself and the rest will fall into place and that's kind of all you have. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Love yourself, man.
Yeah, you gotta love your own company.
Yes, seriously. Corinne, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I love talking to you.
Same, anytime.
And there you have it, my conversation with Corinne. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. And fun fact, I don't know if it was obvious while you were listening, but we actually recorded this episode in 2 parts. We started one night and then we had to break to go to dinner and then we picked up the next morning. But maybe you didn't even notice that. Just a little behind the scenes information. Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to check the show notes and make sure that you check out Corinne's podcast, My Best Friend Corinne. You can also find links to her social media. You can also find links to my social media. I am at Dear Franny on all social media platforms, and you can find the podcast at Dear Franny Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast. I would also really, really appreciate it if you rated us and reviewed us. 5 stars, please. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for listening and have a beautiful day. Until next time.